The British one-penny coin, a staple of the United Kingdom's predecimal currency, carries a legacy steeped in history, monarchy, and national symbolism. Among its most iconic designs is the figure of Britannia, seated strong and stoic, gracing the reverse side. These coins are more than just money. They are miniature monuments of Britain's past. Each year tells a unique story shaped by political shifts, royal transitions, and world events. In this video, we're diving into 4 fascinating years, 1938, 1939, 1937, and 1931, to uncover the value, rarity, and significance behind each of these remarkable coins. First up, the 1938 British one-penny coin. The 1938 British one-penny coin stands as a compelling piece of numismatic history, reflecting a period of quiet transition just before the onset of World War II. This coin belongs to the reign of King George VI, who ascended to the throne in 1936 following the abdication crisis of Edward VIII. The obverse of the 1938 penny features a left-facing portrait of George VI, designed by Thomas Humphrey Paget. His depiction is notably youthful, exuding a calm and controlled authority, with a Latin inscription around the rim reading George of 6D, G, BR, Omen, Rex F laughing face, IND, IMP, translated to George VI by the grace of God, King of all the Britons, Defender of the Faith, Emperor of India. On the reverse side, Britannia sits poised and commanding, a symbol of British imperial strength and maritime supremacy. She is depicted with a trident in her right hand and a shield bearing the Union Jack in her left, while a lighthouse and a ship rest subtly in the background. The word one penny arches above her, and the date 1938 lies below. Despite its visual appeal and historical context, the 1938 penny is not especially rare. In fact, over 120 million of these coins were minted at the Royal Mint, making it relatively common in terms of availability. However, its charm lies not in its scarcity, but in the story it tells. Produced just a year before Britain would plunge into war, the 1938 penny captures the last peaceful breath of a nation on the brink of global conflict. Collectors often seek the 1938 penny for its pristine artwork and its role in completing a set of George VI pennies. Though its standard circulated value typically ranges between 10 pence to £1 sterling, roughly 13 cents to $1.25 USD, coins in uncirculated or mint condition can fetch £5 to £15 sterling or more. Proofs in coins with minting errors, such as misstrikes, double strikes, or off-center designs, can significantly increase in value, depending on condition and demand. The metal composition of the 1938 penny is also of interest. Like most predecimal pennies, it was struck in 95% copper, 4% tin, and 1% zinc, giving it a warm, dark brown hue that tends to deepen with age and circulation. The diameter measures 30.8 millimeters, and it weighs 9.4 grams, maintaining the classic size of the large British penny that would later be phased out in 1971 during decimalization. From a historical standpoint, the 1938 coin falls within a quiet but poignant chapter in British history. The United Kingdom was in the throes of political tension, with Neville Chamberlain's policy of appeasement dominating headlines. Meanwhile, Adolf Hitler's actions in mainland Europe were becoming increasingly aggressive. The 1938 penny thus holds value not just as currency, but as a silent witness to the fragile calm before the storm of World War II. Another interesting detail about the 1938 penny is its production quality. Coins from this year are typically well struck, with sharp features on both the obverse and reverse, especially those that were well preserved or stored in protective cases. The detailing on Britannia's gown, shield, and trident often survives well in high-grade examples, offering collectors a rich visual experience. Although the mintage numbers are high, it's worth noting that finding a coin with minimal wear or full luster is becoming increasingly difficult. Time has taken its toll on most examples, especially those that were in circulation for decades. This has caused a gradual uptick in demand for mint state MS coins, particularly in grades MS63 and above. As such, a 1938 penny certified by a professional grading service can sell for significantly more than its ungraded counterpart. Beyond value and condition, many collectors are drawn to the 1938 penny for sentimental reasons. Some inherit them from older generations, while others stumble upon them in forgotten drawers or dusty coin jars. Its large size and historical weight make it a memorable coin, both literally and figuratively. In the digital age of contactless payments and cryptocurrencies, holding a 1938 penny in your hand offers a tangible connection to a very different time. There's also something inherently artistic about the 1938 British penny. The cedar Britannia design, used on pennies in 1797, represents stability, pride, and maritime strength. The backdrop of a lighthouse subtly emphasizes Britain's identity as a seafaring nation, guiding both ships and its people through turbulent times. This symbolism became even more significant as the world edged closer to war in the years following the coin's mintage. Next up, the 1939 British one-penny coin. The 1939 British one-penny coin is much more than just a unit of old currency. It's a time capsule from one of the most significant years in modern history. Issued under the reign of King George VI, the 1939 penny carries the same powerful imagery as its predecessors, but with a deeper emotional weight. This was the year the United Kingdom entered World War II. As such, the 1939 penny symbolizes both continuity and crisis. It circulated widely among citizens who would soon face air raids, rationing, and a complete transformation of daily life. The obverse of the 1939 penny features the well-known portrait of George VI, designed by Thomas Humphrey Paget. The king is depicted left-facing, with strong yet composed features that symbolize the stoic resolve of the British monarchy. The legend surrounding the portrait reads, Georgiv 6D, G, BR, OMN, Rex F laughing face, IND, maintaining the traditional Latin inscription that translates to George VI by the grace of God, King of all the Britons, Defender of the Faith, Emperor of India. The reverse continues the classic Britannia motif, seated, serene, and strong, holding a trident and a shield bearing the Union Jack. A lighthouse rests to the left, a ship to the right, and the date 1939 is inscribed at the bottom. While visually unchanged from previous years, the symbolism of Britannia standing guard took on profound meaning during this time. Britain, now at war with Nazi Germany, looked to its traditions and icons for unity and strength, and Britannia was the embodiment of those ideals. In terms of mintage, approximately 89 million 1939 pennies were struck, a noticeable decrease from the 1938 issue, yet still a large number. These coins were minted in bronze, a composition of 95.5% copper, 3% tin, and 1.5% zinc. Each coin has a diameter of 30.8 millimeters, a weight of 9.4 grams, and features a smooth edge. While not rare in circulated condition, coins in uncirculated or proof-like quality are significantly harder to find due to the wartime circulation and heavy usage. Despite their commonality, the 1939 penny holds a strong appeal among collectors, especially those with an interest in wartime memorabilia. It offers a chance to own a small, tangible piece of a year when the world shifted dramatically. Because of the lower mintage compared to 1938, prices for high-grade examples are marginally higher. A circulated 1939 penny typically fetches 10 pence to £1 sterling, while uncirculated or mint-condition pieces can sell for £10 to £30 sterling and more for certified high-grade examples. Another detail worth noting is that 1939 pennies were among the last to feature the IND inscription, as India's independence would soon lead to its removal. This tiny detail makes the coin a marker of both colonial legacy and impending political change. In a world heading rapidly toward transformation, the coin quietly captured a snapshot of imperial identity. Minting quality during 1939 was generally consistent, although the demands of wartime production would soon affect the quality and quantity of coinage. However, most 1939 pennies exhibit sharp detail on both sides, particularly on Britannia's robe, trident, and shield. Collectors looking for well-struck examples should pay close attention to the crispness of the lettering and the relief features. Luster and eye appeal can greatly affect the value, even more so than rarity for this particular date. Historically, the 1939 penny found its way into the hands of British soldiers, civilians, evacuees, and even foreign allies. It jingled in pockets during blackouts, ration lines, and air raid drills. Children used them to buy sweets while sirens wailed in the distance, and families relied on them for essentials during times of uncertainty. The emotional and historical connection to this year gives a coin an almost sentimental value that goes far beyond its face or market price. From a numismatic perspective, the 1939 penny is often collected alongside other wartime dates, 1940, 1941, 1942, and so on, as part of a wartime coinage series. For educators and historians, it's also a powerful teaching tool. Holding this coin sparks conversations about Britain's role in World War II, the resilience of its people, and the economic challenges they faced. It's proof that even something as mundane as a penny can carry deep meaning. As with many British coins, there are a few notable varieties and errors from the 1939 penny, although none are as famous or as dramatic as other years. Still, die clashes, off-center strikes, and ghosting, with a portrait on the obverse can be faintly seen on the reverse, are all phenomena collectors keep an eye out for. These rare minting anomalies can increase the coin's desirability and value significantly. Even without such errors, the 1939 penny has found renewed interest in recent years, partly due to a growing public fascination with World War II-era memorabilia. Coin shows, online auctions, and numismatic forums frequently feature spirited discussions and trades involving 1939 pennies, especially when bundling sets with related coins such as the farthing, halfpenny, and threepence from the same year. It's also worth mentioning that many families in Britain still possess these coins, often tucked away in old biscuit tins or passed down in small collections. These pennies can spark personal memories or family stories about war evacuation, rationing, or simply what life was like during a time of immense global upheaval. Next up, the 1937 British one-penny coin. The 1937 British one-penny coin holds a unique and distinguished place in the numismatic timeline, not only because of its design and symbolism, but also because it marked the official coronation year of King George VI. It was the first full year that coins featuring the new monarch were minted for general circulation after the brief and controversial reign of Edward VIII, whose coinage never reached circulation. For this reason, the 1937 penny stands as a historic starting point of the George VI coinage series and is highly sought after by collectors who value first-year issues. The obverse of the 1937 penny features the debut portrait of King George VI, designed by Thomas Humphrey Paget. The king is shown in a left-facing profile, clean-shaven, with a composed yet youthful expression. Around the edge is a Latin legend, George of 6D, G, BR, Omen, Rex F. Laughing Face, IND-IMP, translating to George VI by the grace of God, King of all the Britons, Defender of the Faith, Emperor of India. The image was widely praised for its balance of strength and humility, and this initial portrait will become familiar across numerous British and colonial coin denominations during the king's reign. The reverse features a traditional seated Britannia design, one of the most enduring motifs in British coinage. Seated facing right, Britannia holds her trident in the right hand and a shield in the left, with a lighthouse behind her and a ship sailing on the horizon. Below her feet is the date 1937, and the words "one penny" curve across the top edge. This reverse design remained unchanged for decades, but in 1937, it carried renewed importance as a symbol of British identity and continuity following the turbulence of Edward VIII's abdication. One key highlight of the 1937 penny is its proof version. In this coronation year, the Royal Mint released special proof sets for collectors, which included a beautifully struck 1937 penny. These proof pennies are much rarer and more valuable than the regular circulation strikes, as they were minted in much smaller quantities and intended for presentation rather than daily use. The 1937 proof penny is renowned for its mirror-like feel, sharp details, and overall elegance, qualities that make a crown jewel in many collections. In terms of mintage, over 61 million regular 1937 pennies were produced, making it a relatively common coin in circulated condition. These coins were minted in the traditional bronze alloy, approximately 95.5% copper, 3% tin, and 1.5% zinc, measured 30.8 millimeters in diameter, and weighed 9.4 grams. Despite their large mintage, high-grade examples, especially those with original luster or minimal wear, are always in demand. A well-circulated 1937 penny may fetch between 10 pence to £1 sterling, while coins in uncirculated or mint state condition can command £5 to £20 sterling. Proof version, however, can easily sell for £50 to over £150 sterling, depending on condition and presentation. Beyond its monetary value, the 1937 penny is a coin of major historical relevance. The sudden transition from Edward VIII to George VI shocked both the monarchy and the public. The new king, who had never expected a reign, stepped into the role with hesitation, but soon became a beloved symbol of British perseverance, especially during World War II. The 1937 penny therefore represents more than a monetary unit. It is a snapshot of a nation redefining itself in the face of constitutional and political change. Collectors and historians often use the 1937 penny to discuss royal transitions and the emotional impact of Edward VIII's abdication. In fact, many coin collectors deliberately pair the 1937 George VI penny with a pattern or replica of the never-issued Edward VIII penny to contrast two paths, one that was and one that never came to be. This juxtaposition adds educational and storytelling value to the 1937 coin, making a compelling entry point for anyone new to British coin collecting. Another standout feature of the 1937 penny is its consistency in quality. Since it marked the start of a new monarch's reign, the Royal Mint placed high importance on precision and presentation. As a result, many surviving 1937 coins, even circulated ones, show excellent detail, especially on Britannia's robe, shield, and facial features. Collectors often comment on the depth of strike, clear rim beading in full, strong legends found on this coin. The 1937 penny is also important for those studying the pre-World War II British economy. Minted during a time of cautious optimism, the coin reflects a Britain still recovering from the economic difficulties of the Great Depression, but not yet facing the full-scale industrial mobilization of wartime. Everyday life in 1937 Britain was calm, but the undercurrents of global tension were rising. This makes the penny a small but meaningful marker of a country in a rare moment of balance between peace and war, tradition and modernity. Some numismatists also value the 1937 penny for what it represents in the broader Commonwealth. Coins of this year were issued not just in Britain but across the empire, featuring George VI's new portrait. For many nations under British rule, this was the first time they saw a new face on their money in over 2 decades. The ripple effect of the 1937 coronation coinage created a wave of new designs. Next up, the 1931 British 1 penny coin. The 1931 British 1 penny coin is a distinguished relic from a turbulent decade, minted during the final years of King George V's reign. While it shares a classic Britannia reverse design seen on earlier coins, it emerges from a period marked by global economic depression, rising political uncertainty, and subtle but significant shifts in British society. The coin itself became a small but reliable token in everyday life, a bronze constant in an age of instability. On the obverse, we see the portrait of King George V, a monarch who reigned from 1910 to 1936. The portrait was designed by Bertram Mackennal and shows the king facing left, sporting a neat mustache and a crown profile, regal yet restrained. The Latin legend surrounding the portrait reads, Georges vide gerebrit, omen rex fid def indiem. This translates to George V, by the grace of God, King of all the Britons, Defender of the Faith, Emperor of India. The wording reflects both the king's imperial status and the religious role traditionally assigned to British monarchs. The reverse continues the long-standing Britannia design. Seated and facing right, holding a trident in one hand and a shield bearing the Union Jack in the other. To the left, a lighthouse, and to the right, a ship in full sail. The date 1931 appears at the bottom, and 1 penny arches above. This design had remained virtually unchanged since 1895 and embodied Britain's naval heritage, imperial pride, and political stability, even during periods when these very qualities were under threat. In 1931, the UK was deeply immersed in the Great Depression, and the economic strain was felt across all sectors of society. Unemployment had skyrocketed, businesses were failing, and political tensions were increasing. Coinage production was adjusted accordingly, and the mintage of the 1931 penny reflects this change. Roughly 27.2 million pennies were struck in that year, a noticeable drop compared to earlier, more prosperous years. The coin was minted in bronze, 95.5% copper, 3% tin, 1.5% zinc, had a diameter of 30.8 millimeters, and weighed approximately 9.4 grams. Its plain edge and strong, heavy feel made it a familiar presence in pockets and tills across Britain. Despite the era's challenges, the Royal Mint maintained a high standard of quality, and many 1931 pennies exhibit fine detail and crisp relief, especially in higher grades. From a collector's point of view, the 1931 penny holds solid appeal, particularly as part of a complete King George V coinage set. Circulated examples are relatively easy to find and typically sell for 20 pence to £1 GBP, depending on condition. However, uncirculated or mint state coins can command £10 to £30 sterling, with exceptional examples going higher. While the 1931 penny is not considered rare, coins with full original luster, minimal marks, and bold strikes are increasingly difficult to come by, especially those certified by grading agencies. There are no major varieties or known die errors associated with the 1931 penny, which contributes to its accessibility for new collectors. That said, some subtle collecting challenges do exist. For instance, looking for specimens with full rim beading, a clear trident, and strong definition on King George V's facial features. These markers help differentiate between average and high-quality examples. One of the more intriguing aspects of the 1931 penny lies in the historical moment it represents. By this year, the British Empire was starting to show early signs of transformation. In 1931, the Statute of Westminster was passed, granting legislative independence to key dominions like Canada, Australia, and South Africa. This marked a turning point in the relationship between Britain and its former colonies, laying the groundwork for what would become the modern Commonwealth. The 1931 penny, bearing both the imperial title IND, IMP and Britannia herself, became one of the last coins to symbolize an undivided British Empire in its original form. The domestic political landscape was also undergoing rapid changes. The national government, a coalition formed to address the economic crisis, came to power in 1931. This new leadership reflected a move toward pragmatism in governance, as well as deeper concern over rising extremism abroad and social unrest at home. The 1931 penny, circulating widely during this time, quietly accompanied Britons through an era of rationing, hunger marches, and national introspection. From a design perspective, the 1931 penny marked one of the final appearances of the seated Britannia motif under King George V. This version of Britannia, serene and almost mythological, would be gradually replaced after the monarch's death in 1936 and later removed altogether in the decimalization of British coinage in 1971. As a result, the 1931 coin holds value not just as a functional unit of currency, but also as a representation of a bygone era in British artistic and cultural expression. It's also worth noting that while most 1931 pennies were minted at the Royal Mint in London, there is no mint mark on the coin itself. However, a small number of collectors enjoy comparing British minted coins to those produced in other parts of the empire, particularly Australia, which also minted pennies during this period, albeit with different designs and monarchs.